You're not afraid of me, kid? Judge Griggs leaned forward from the bench, his voice sharp, laced with disbelief. His black robe hung stiff over his chest as he narrowed his eyes at the small boy standing alone before him. 12-year-old Caleb Brooks didn't flinch. He stood barely 5 feet tall, wearing a wrinkled white shirt, dusty khaki pants, and shoes a size too big. In his hand, he held a worn folder like it was armor. I asked you a question, the judge barked. You afraid or not? Caleb looked up, calm, steady. His voice was soft but crisp. Your boss is, he said. You should be, too. The courtroom went silent. A clerk dropped her pen. Someone in the back let out a quiet, shocked breath. Judge Griggs froze for a second, lips twitching like he wasn't sure if this was a joke or a threat. Then his voice thundered. Bailiff, get this boy out of here. As the bailiff moved in, Caleb's folder slipped from his hands. Papers scattered across the marble floor. One photo landed face up near the judge's bench. A woman, black, smiling, in a courtroom robe, looked straight into the camera. No one moved. Not yet. The room held its breath. 3 days earlier, Caleb had stood at the courthouse entrance gripping that same folder. A guard blocked him with one arm. You can't come in here without a parent or legal rep, the man said, sneering. This isn't some street hangout. I have a hearing, Caleb said quietly, holding out the paper. The guard glanced at it, then scoffed. A kid like you? You probably forged this. Back of the line. No one intervened. A woman in a blazer watched from her seat, then looked away. A janitor paused, hesitated, then pushed his cart past without a word. Caleb stood frozen for a moment before quietly turning and walking around the building to the back entrance. Inside the courtroom, Judge Griggs had already made up his mind. You want to submit evidence, he smirked. Son, this isn't your school debate club. Caleb tried to speak, but the judge snatched the folder from his hands. Let's see what's so important. He flipped through the papers roughly. Handwritten notes. A photo. This is nothing. He tossed the folder to the floor. The photo of Caleb's mother slid out and stopped at the judge's feet. She wore a judge's robe. A nameplate sat behind her, Honorable L. Brooks. Her smile was familiar, the same determined warmth now resting on Caleb's face. But Judge Griggs didn't notice. He stepped right over the picture. And Caleb, just knelt down and picked it up without saying a word. The courtroom was packed that morning, law students, junior clerks, even local press observers who'd heard whispers about a minor challenging a court ruling. Caleb was called again, and this time, the bailiff didn't stop him. He walked forward, slow but steady, gripping the same worn folder. Judge Griggs looked annoyed. Back again? Haven't we wasted enough time on you? Caleb said nothing. He stepped to the podium, opened the folder, and pulled out a single sheet. It wasn't a photo. It was a certified case brief, one that bore his mother's signature as lead counsel. Her final case, against a former colleague of Judge Griggs. Gasps rippled through the room. Then Caleb pulled out a second paper, an internal ethics complaint. And at the bottom, the signature of the man Judge Griggs worked under, Chief Justice Bernard Langston. The judge blinked. Caleb's voice was calm, precise. I'm not here to disrespect this court, he said. I'm here because someone's watching. And your boss already saw this. Judge Griggs leaned back, stunned. A murmur grew in the gallery. One of the clerks stood up. Sir, she said, hesitant, this child is the legal ward of Judge L. Brooks. The ethics complaint was filed last week. It's real. The room fell silent. Judge Griggs's hand dropped from the bench. Caleb stepped forward one last time, gently placed his mother's photo on the desk in front of him, and said, I'm not asking for an apology. I'm asking you to read the law, like she taught you. Judge Griggs didn't speak. For a long, awkward moment, he just stared at the photo of Judge L. Brooks. His hand hovered over his gavel, then lowered. The bailiff looked around, unsure whether to escort Caleb out or salute him. From the gallery, a woman slowly stood. It was the court ethics officer. "Your Honor," she said carefully, "we've received confirmation from the Chief Justice. This child has standing. And what he submitted is valid." Griggs's face flushed. He cleared his throat, eyes darting across the courtroom. The authority he once wielded now hung heavy, fragile. He nodded stiffly. "Motion to suspend prior ruling is granted," he mumbled. One of the younger law clerks approached Caleb and picked up the folder, gently placing it back into the boy's hands. As Caleb turned to leave, he paused. His eyes landed on the security guard who had blocked him days ago. The man looked away, then stepped aside. Just before Caleb reached the doors, he looked back one last time, at the judge, at the bench, and at the photo still resting there. And then, he walked out, the courtroom too stunned to move. Outside the courthouse, the sky had shifted. Light filtered through overcast clouds, falling gently over the steps as Caleb paused at the bottom. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. He just stood there, clutching the folder against his chest like a shield and a torch all at once. Behind him, the doors creaked open. Judge Griggs appeared, alone. His robe now looked heavy on his shoulders, his steps slower. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't command the space. "I was wrong," he said, his voice rough. "About your standing. About you." Caleb turned, meeting his eyes. There was no gloating. No triumph. "I wasn't trying to prove you wrong," he said quietly. "I just needed someone to finally listen." Griggs lowered his gaze. "Your mother would have been proud." Caleb nodded. "She would have expected better." He walked away then, into the fading light. And behind him, the judge remained on the steps, still holding the photograph he had once stepped over, now with both hands. The silence that followed wasn't emptiness, it was reflection. What Caleb Brooks did wasn't loud, but it echoed through walls built to silence boys like him. He didn't win by shouting. He won by remembering who he was, and who stood before him, his mother, her values, and the law she believed in. If this story made you pause, if it made you feel something, don't just scroll on. Leave a comment. Share your thoughts. And if you believe more people need to hear stories like Caleb's, hit subscribe. Sometimes, justice doesn't roar, it whispers through the courage of a 12-year-old boy.